Yeah, the N64 controller.
I hate it.
I don't think genuinely anybody can defend the 64 controller. Like, I think
Good.
the only neat thing with it would be the fact that you could, I think it was GoldenEye and a couple other games, Turok, I think as well. You could like twin stick it.
Yeah.
Where you would plug two 64 controllers in and use, one in each hand.
But no, that's dumb.
All right.
You cannot tell me.
Keep your hatred in the corner for a second. Let everyone talk.
No, I'm gonna take one shitty controller and multiply it by 2 to somehow make it better.
Well, yeah, if you take one turd and add another turd, it's like a better turd.
Super turd.
It's a shinier turd.
Hey guys, I'm Bill, a one-time Instagram vlogger and now a podcaster.
And I'm Alex, the chaotic neutral.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast.
A brother-sister duo.
That talks about gaming.
And also anime.
And don't forget the collecting. Sometimes.
Ah, forget it. We're just a nostalgia podcast at this point.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, I'd just like to give a PSA. Never tempt Zencaster. Alright, so we're going to try this one again. This is where I normally say, how you been? And we have a couple guests this time. And one of them has never been on the show before, and I'd like to introduce him. This is Chris from the Retro Hangover Podcast. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, how's it going, Bill? I feel like I've said this before, but thank you for having me on your show. It's I think it's the first time I've been on it, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on, dude. All right. And then returning guests from the Anime Fight Club episode, we have Slade from the Video Game Club. How's it going, Slade?
Oh, everything's doing really good. Anime is always good. Playing games, everything's great.
Are you still on your Zelda Tears of the Kingdom binge? Or
there's no other games coming out in 2023. What do you mean? That's it.
Fair enough. And then also returning from the Studio Ghibli retrospective, we have Rick from Pixel Project Radio. How's it going, Rick?
What's good, everyone? How's it going?
It's going well. And like I say now on every episode, how you guys been?
Awkward silence.
Always an awkward pause after that.
Because we're like, who goes here? It's like the Spider-Man point. It's
let's let Chris go first because it's first time, right? So
Yes.
all the pressure to Chris.
Oh, well, thank you so much for letting me do this. I feel very awkward here, but I'll try to make this one count. I guess I've been doing good. Work is boring and I hate it there, but it pays the bills. So I'm happy about that. I continue to collect some video games. In fact, today I got Dragon Quest 11. Not the definitive edition. It was only $15 because I've been trying to find it everywhere else. And it's like, I either can't find it or it's not representing the price that I'm finding on price charting for it. So I was just able to pick up a $15 one. I wanted it for the Xbox, and I remember when it was $20 a few years ago. I'm like, yeah, this is sold enough. It's going to stay that low. And it has not stayed that low. So it says it has, but then you go to eBay and it says, no, it has not. So that's unfortunate. I also got Bomberman Generation, so I'll see how that goes. But
is that one of the platformer ones, or is that like one of the actual Bomberman ones?
It's very ambiguous about what it is. I haven't seen a review of it. Just says, hey, all new 3D adventure. So I'm assuming a platformer one. It's for the GameCube. So it could be anything. I know it's not the Saturn version like it all should be, but you know what? It's cute. It's Bomberman. It's before Konami ruined everything, so I'll take it. I'll be happy for a little bit.
You mean you don't want a pachinko machine?
I mean, I do, as long as it's that Castlevania one with the boobies.
Oh, that'd be a great one to have.
That'd be fantastic.
Ooh, tell me
Erotic
more about
violence.
these boobies.
They have blue feet and they live in islands.
Shout out to Zoo Books. Love Zoo Books.
Nice. We actually talked about collecting on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. Who would have thought?
What? What? It's just implied. What are you talking about?
I have a collecting one for you. A friend of mine for my birthday, because a big Zelda fan that I am, gave me a boxed copy of the Japanese version of Link to the Past, which is one of my top 3 Zelda games of all time.
Nice.
This is the first one I played and beat, and it holds a special place.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
I love
I
Super Famicom boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, the
they're
art
cool.
is really nice.
if we're sharing collecting pickups, I always told myself I would start into N64 if I could find a particular game, and I found the game, a boxed copy of Quest 64, and so the same day I picked up that and a smoke gray N64. So that ends my N64 collection. I've got every game that I'll ever need.
Alex had an N64 and she started seething in the corner.
You don't want to
blocking it out. Don't worry.
You don't want to copy a Glover, the Ultimate Mario 64 ripoff.
You know
There
the
is there is. Oh,
you know-
sorry, Bill.
I was gonna say, the password screen in that game is just fart noises.
Yes.
Nice.
She's more partial to the Jaguar, Rick.
Yes, yes.
It's her superior 64-bit console.
It is. It's just so much better. But we'll get into it later.
You know the
trust me.
you know the meme of like kids, you're both terrible. That's really both consoles. If we're honest about it, that's,
No!
that's both of them. If we're honest.
Right.
No. Oh.
I didn't mean to cut you off there, Rick.
Oh, I don't even remember what I was going to say, man. You're good.
Okay.
Oh.
I guess if we're sharing collecting stuff, I finally got a Master Gear, so I can play Master System games on my Game Gear.
You're welcome.
I actually legitimately bought that after that conversation.
Now we need to get Rick to buy one.
Nice.
Man, I don't know about that.
Then we can all play Phantasy Star on the go,
Yes.
Fine.
But it
Even
won't
though
be
they're-
online.
even though there's a better GBA version out there.
And Switch version.
That too. Ah,
I didn't get any games, but I got a bird feeder.
yep. Yes, you did.
And I gotta say, they go through it so quickly. I filled the bird feeder the other day and it was empty when I came home. I'm gonna lose all my money in bird seed, so fuck the birds. That's all I have to say.
And,
I agree wholeheartedly. They're not real.
Yeah,
No, they're
birds,
not.
birds are not real. We all know.
But then
this.
who's eating the bird seed?
The CIA.
That's exactly what they don't want you to know.
I'm telling her it's the squirrels. But
It could be. It could be.
It's probably the squirrels.
It's how the CIA it just tricks you in order to have the birds come there and spy on you.
and on that note, let's transition into our topic for this episode. Or we could just talk about Alex's bird collection. I don't know.
Bird. I don't have a bird collection
that you
Oh, no.
know of.
that I know of. Uh-oh.
It's
Alex,
the
are you
bird watching
fed?
podcast?
I don't think Alex heard that.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. I'm confused. I'm tired.
All
I'm
right.
just gonna cry in the corner. Bye,
So-
guys. It was nice podcasting with you.
She'll be back in a few minutes.
No, I won't. I quit.
You do this every episode.
You're evicted.
I'm glad someone else did it. I was about to.
Yeah.
That's why it's perfect for a podcast. Well, at least when I'm talking, it's perfect.
All right. Well, anyways, so now to transition into our topic. So, one of our goals with season 3 was we wanted to revisit a whole bunch of topics that we did back in the early episodes, and one of them was we talked about video game controllers. And as much as I liked that episode, I feel like there was a lot more we could have gone into it, and that's why I wanted to bring along some friends this time to discuss the weird history of video game controllers and kind of debate on what our favorites are. So I figured the best way to kind of start this would be to just kind of talk about like what was the first video game controller like everyone remembered using, I guess, back in the day when you first discovered video games. And I'd like the guests to go first. So I guess we'll go Chris, Slade, and then Rick, and then me and Alex down the
Sure.
line. So Chris.
First controller I have from memory is probably something that a lot of people my age have, and that is the Nintendo Entertainment System controller. The old rectangle with that beautiful black D-pad and those red buttons. It's something that I'm probably going to be talking about again later here, and that's of course the controller I played on the first console I ever remember having in my house. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, first controller from memory right there.
Nice. All right, Slade?
As a child of the 90s, obviously it's the N64 would be the first one, because I think everybody in my neighborhood had
Poor
one.
child. No.
The controller with 3 hand holding pieces that you have no idea how to actually hold.
Nice. All right, Rick?
So my first controller that I ever had was actually for the Sega Saturn, specifically the Gen 1 version, the uglier version.
No.
The weird, the one that's just weird in like every way.
It's bizarre. I like it. I like it, but it's bizarre.
Weird shoulder buttons.
Very weird, yeah.
I actually picked one up at a convention recently just to have one. It's just such a striking looking controller, especially compared to the much superior Japanese one that I'm sure we'll be getting to later.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I have this controller. Okay.
All right. So I guess now for myself, it was actually the original PlayStation controller, like not the DualShock, the original one that was basically just a Super Nintendo controller with grips and 2 extra shoulder buttons, if anyone remembers that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Still one of the most comfortable 2D controllers I think I've ever held. But yeah, it's weird holding one of those now and just how bare it feels, especially compared to like the later DualShock. And Alex?
Just the same thing. Ditto.
Did you
I mean-
did you use that one? I thought you used the DualShock, honestly.
Well, no, I remember using that one. No, because you always gave me the shittier controller.
No, I gave myself the shittier controller because for some reason I thought the Mad Catz one was the better one.
Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah. So in reality, I think you got the better end of the deal.
All right, then I had the better end of the deal. But
It does have a Z on the end of the name.
Exactly.
Z makes everything cooler.
It had a turbo
does.
feature that didn't turn off. It was great.
You know why Mad Catz failed too is because it did have the Z, but they forgot the X.
Ah.
Yep.
If they had the X, they would have
Come on.
not gone bankrupt.
All
Damn
right,
good.
future note.
Damn Rock Band 4. All right, so clearly me, Alex and Slade are the younger people here
Yes.
in this group. Although I think actually me and Rick are closer in age than I actually think, like, because I'm almost 30 at this point. I believe.
Yeah, to be fair, I only got I got a PS1 like directly after my uncle gave me a Saturn, so I wasn't it wasn't contemporary for me.
See, for some reason I thought initially you were older than me, but then I remembered I was actually listening to the Final Fantasy VI podcast where you said how old you were, and I was like, oh, we're actually not that far apart now that I think about it.
Yeah, man, dirty 30.
It's creeping up on me. I don't want it.
Thanks for
Yeah,
making me
either.
feel ancient. Hate all of you.
Oh,
It's all right. I do that every
I'm
time I pop.
sorry.
Anytime I pop up in the Retro Hangover server, I just I say something and everyone just like dies a little inside. It's all right. All right. So we've gone over the first controller, remember, and this was mostly just for a little context before we start this kind of debate. And I kind of broke it up into like 5 different categories I kind of wanted to go through that I just kind of came up with on the fly. So I guess the best way to start off is what would everybody's favorite controller, like their definitive, just like this is the controller that like no matter what system you're playing on, this is the one that you always like. If you had a way to use it, you would. So we'll start again with Chris.
Yo, it's the Saturn Model 2 for Americans or Model 1 for Japan. That controller, because I love my 2D games. And I mean, I like 3D games too, but if you're talking about a controller that can just slay those 2D anything, whether it be a 2D fighter or a 2D platformer or a running gun, anything like that, the Saturn is the perfect complementary controller for it, especially if you, even with emulation, going back playing other systems, if you find your optimal mapping, it's right there. It's the perfect kind of controller, I think, for a retro gamer, because I mean, there are 2D games. I mean, there are 3D games that are going to be difficult to play, but I mean, there are options for that. Like anything can be a 3D controller, but there's only one controller that really nails that 2D experience like the Saturn does. Super Nintendo's right kind of there, but yeah, nothing beats that feel. It's just it just kind of molds into your hand.
It is like by far one of the most comfortable like old school style controllers I think I've ever held.
Definitely.
Like it's like that perfect size.
And it's not too big like the Sega Genesis, the original Sega Genesis one was, which was just a little too big, but it has enough of a curve and enough indentures to go with your hand that the Sega 6-button controller, which is also very comfortable, it just doesn't have those features like the Sega Saturn one does. Like they learned a lot.
Nah, fun fact, when Alex went over to Japan, she was trying to figure out like something to bring back over, and she had gone to a bunch of retro video game stores, and she was kind of just sending me like images of just stuff in the store, and I was like, I have no idea, there's way too much going on here. But she had passed by like a bunch of Saturn controllers, and I saw the Japanese like Saturn controller, like the white one with like the colored buttons and the red triggers, and I was like one of those, that's all I need. And
they're perfect.
She brought it back over, and that's like my definitive Saturn controller now.
See, I'm a good sister. Sometimes.
I appreciated it.
You're still evicted. Just kidding.
And on that note, Slade.
Yeah, no problem. So for me, it's actually the current Xbox Series X/S controller.
Interesting.
I have two of these sitting on my desk right now. This is my perfect. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It is just a controller. If you haven't used one of the newer ones, they've textured the back of it, which is really nice, very comfortable to hold, great battery life. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Good button layout, and for somebody with larger hands, this thing fits very, very well. And
Microsoft finally learned how to make a D-pad.
Yeah, that's we're not going to talk about the D-pads. It's okay. Yeah, actually, on my desk currently, there's a 360 controller and two Series X/S controllers all next to each other.
Yeah, lovely. Rick?
Yeah, so, I hate to pick the new hotness, but I've got to go with the DualSense. It's it feels great in the hands. I've always preferred the button layout of PlayStation, the triangle, circle, cross, square, and the situation of the analog sticks. I love that. The haptic triggers, I mean, that's just a huge bonus to me. Yeah, I like everything about the controller. No notes. Oh, the battery life sucks, but I mean, that doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, in the age of recharging, I mean, most battery lives don't like bother me that much. I mean, I don't think anything will ever beat the Wii U gamepad in terms of like battery life, like just like dying like within like an hour. But the it's weird. Although the Switch Pro controller actually is not bad in terms of battery life, but that's besides the point.
I had a friend of mine suggested that I pick up a one of those like $20 charging stations, so I just set it there whenever I'm not using it.
I actually really need to pick one of those up because mine's always dead. And on that note, actually, my personal favorite controller is, believe it or not, also the DualSense. I just love the feel of that thing. Like everything about it is perfect to me. Like I mean, I'm a PlayStation kid. I've PlayStation from day one. So like to me, like the cross, circle, triangle, square, like that's just feels natural to me. I've always preferred the analog sticks below, just because for some reason I can adapt to a 3D game with the analog stick below, but like I cannot adapt to a 2D game with the analog stick below for whatever reason. Well, with the D-pad below. And like I love the PlayStation D-pad. I love that, like it's got like a good weight to it, but it also like isn't like massively heavy, and it just feels solid.
Yeah, the D-pad is not great excuse me, for like for fighting games or anything like that, but everything else, I mean, it's really solid.
Totally. And Alex.
Okay. So mine, it's only my favorite because it's the console I play the most and I enjoy the most, which is the Switch Joy-Con controllers, because I love to play it with the screen like 2 inches from my face. So that's why I picked it, so I can see what's happening. And it's great. So that's my favorite. And I would love if I could take a PlayStation and do the same thing and bring that along with me. I hope all gaming goes like the Switch. That is all.
I don't know where to go from here.
It's an interesting choice, I can tell you that much.
It is.
Very interesting.
I don't care if it's not comfortable after a while. I can see. That's what I
Alex
care
just wants to
about.
play games with 2 Twix Minis, one in each hand.
Yeah. Well,
I
no.
mean-
I want them attached to the screen, so it's like one big controller, 2 inches from my face, so I can see what's happening.
Oh, you are like the one person that's in the market for that new PlayStation handheld.
I
yeah,
am. I am their clientele.
she had texted me like after that event, like 'cause she saw the picture of it, and
I
she
didn't
just
think it was real.
yeah, she texted me in the middle of the night. She's like, "Is this real?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, kinda."
And I really wanted it.
Till you
I'm not-
find out you got to be on Wi-Fi all the time
Yeah.
to play games.
I mean, that's fine. I don't leave my house. And if I did, I'd bring my Switch with me.
Lovely. So I actually had a pretty good variety here. Like we actually had more modern controllers than I was expecting, which is actually kind of interesting to me. Like I think Chris was the only one that had like an older controller.
Yeah, because of the old man. Thanks.
To be fair, I was like tied between like that and like the DualShock 2, so
I was gonna say the Atari Jaguar just to be annoying, but I resisted.
I'm not going to be sympathetic. I was going to say the current stuff.
mm. Well, my opinion like tends to change on like a whim, but I think if I had to like grab a controller that I could just definitively use on any console, it would probably be the DualSense, because it just my hand doesn't cramp in it, and that's kind of like the only thing I really like need with a controller. All right, anyone else have anything to add before we move on, or
I just like the only thing I can really comment here, because I don't have a DualSense, and this is just a question over there for Slade. You
Sure.
don't find it feeling like cheap at all? Because I do find it's comfortable. Like I think it's a lot better than the 360 controller, which I may or may not be talking about later.
Yeah.
But-
So okay, no, I get that, because if you held the current one and then immediately a 360, the 360 feels like a plastic Fisher Price toy.
Right. But I still think like the Xbox Series, like when I first got it, like right out of the box,
Right.
there was like a separation of the plastic. Like I could just push a button. It felt like it separated from itself.
Oh,
So maybe it's just me having bad luck, but
yeah, because mine does not have that whatsoever.
okay.
Or neither one of mine have that whatsoever.
Also, the battery didn't die, but like it corroded inside of the controller.
Oh.
That's a weird first person problem. Yeah, my battery didn't actually die. It still has.
Yeah.
It's just corroded.
Like my kids, because they're the ones who play it most of the time, they came up to me and was like, "Hey, what's this residue here in the battery compartment?" I'm like, "Oh no." So
Got to teach
Yeah.
him the old clean it with Coke trick.
yeah, I'll use isopropyl alcohol instead.
Yeah.
It's working, but yeah, that's the only reason I don't have that up higher. Is just it just feels a little cheap.
It's just my after the 64, I was a very hard PlayStation 2 kid,
most
and yeah, so I went from it to a 360, and then just I don't know, just something about the controller like again fit in my hands properly, and that's just where I ended up staying.
Okay.
And I think each iteration has just kind of gotten better.
Microsoft definitely learns as they go on, so I'll give them that.
Yeah, like I had a tweet a while back that kind of blew up, and it was mostly telling me to clean my controllers, but it was
Oh,
the three a 360, a Xbox One, and then a Series S controller like all together, and being able to look at them all side by side immediately, you can see just small tweaks and improvements made through the generations.
Well, it's kind of like that meme where it's like it has like all the PlayStation controllers, it has all the Xbox controllers, and it has all the Nintendo controllers. And for like Sony, it says like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. For Microsoft it says change is good, and then for Nintendo it just says cocaine.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now moving on to the next category. So this is actually the one I was looking forward to. What is everybody's least favorite controller? Like just that controller that you get the one look at it and like you hate everything about it, and you don't even have to hate the console it's attached to. It can be just the controller itself, which can ruin the experience for you in a lot of ways. So like before, I guess we'll start off with Chris.
I didn't want to go to like the cheap I didn't want to go like a television with their like dial thing, which I've tried before and it's a disaster, or any controller made before Nintendo, the NES, because they set the standard with that D-pad. So everyone knows what to do now. So my least favorite controller that I've had to use, because I did not know that you could use a different controller with, it has to be the Master System controller. That controller is horrible. The D-pad is awful. The buttons feel like mush. The cord is a decent length. Oh, and it doesn't have a pause button. The pause button's on the console. So if you want to talk about a controller where like Sega learned nothing, it's definitely that Master System controller. It is terrible.
Yeah, the Master System controller is like one of the funniest things because I think it looks pretty badass. So, like, I love that color scheme, but the controller itself, like the buttons are gummy and gross. The D-pad is, they hadn't learned how to get around Nintendo's patent yet, clearly.
Right.
And my favorite part about it is like you can just plug a Genesis controller in, and it just completely like makes that controller irrelevant.
Oh, unless you want to play Wonder Boy in Monsterland.
Yeah.
And then if you try doing that with the Genesis controller, he will fall through the screen and then just like rapidly walk back and forth. So, because you have to have a Master System controller for that game for some reason. There's a few of them like that. And screw those games. Play them on your Game Gear, Bill.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what my other favorite thing is? If you use like a power-based converter on a Genesis, because of the whole start button thing, the power-based converter has a start button built into it just to compensate for that.
Yep.
Sega. All right. So, yep. So, Slade, what is your least favorite controller?
So, mine is 3 controllers because I can't really decide between any of them. But it's the PlayStation 3 through 5 controllers. And that silence is going to be my last appearance on Gaming and Collecting. Thank you, everybody, very much for having me on.
Yeah, but you can still stay. You can stay.
Hear me out real quick. The PS3 controller, the biggest problem is that, again, too small. My pinky and whatever the one is next to that touch the palm of my hands, and it just feels weird and sweaty after a while. In the
That's
bin.
fair.
It also introduced the 6-axis motion, which is like the last thing I want when I'm in some weird slump on the couch or in my recliner playing games. I don't want to have to sit up properly suddenly to use the motion controls in it. PlayStation 4 controller. Again, we still have the motion controls, but now they've added the trackpad, which is pointless and useless, and I don't want it. It's a gimmick to a controller that's unnecessary. Same with the little speaker in it. And then with the PS5 controller, as where it's now proper sized for adult hands, I have the haptic triggers, which always concerned me for half a second because I'm like, man, is my controller broken? Oh, no, never mind. It's just making me have to press the trigger extra hard now for some reason. The vibration's good. I don't like that. What game was it? It was Horizon Forbidden West. It was playing like... So I play with headphones on normally in games. But the fact that my friend's like radio communication was coming through the controller, so I had to keep one ear off, is just kind of immersion breaking. And this is where I go back to loving the Xbox controller, because it's just a controller. It doesn't throw in what I see as a needless gimmick on top of everything else.
You make a bunch of fair points. I will give you that.
That's why I can't stand the controllers.
That is fair. I still like them, but your points are good.
You're not kicked off the show. You can stay.
Look, I have a controller listed later for motion controls, but literally nobody is free from me saying don't do motion controls in anything. The second I started playing Tears of the Kingdom, immediately went to the menu, turned motion controls off. I don't want it.
No, thank you.
I still think it's worse on a handheld, just because like just the image of like you're on a crowded bus, and like the things like do the gyro, and it's like everyone's
That
looking at you
sounds
like.
like a great time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Meanwhile,
Or-
everyone's just staring at you like, what is he doing?
Or for me, it's like,
believe
Well,
it's
Bill, they
pronounced
do that
the
regardless.
Euro.
Sorry, what was that, Rick?
boo.
Yeah, that was the appropriate response. Just move on.
No, or it's like me if I'm sitting in like my work truck on a construction site and I'm playing my Switch. I don't want to sit there and have to look like an idiot who can't figure out the GPS on an iPad because those people probably don't know what a Switch is. And I'm over here flailing around in the work truck.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I think that makes it a much better time.
Look, I will say
Ignore
this
her.
about the 6-axis, because I mean there wasn't even the DualShock 3 when that first came out. It was just the 6-axis controller because of some lawsuit or something, and they wouldn't admit it. But like it just doesn't work, and Sony agrees with you because they abandoned that like pretty quick. Like Layer came out, they're like, oh shit, we can't do this. And then all of a sudden, hey, the DualShock 3's here, everybody. Hey, isn't this cool? And then all of a sudden, like all their motion control talk just went immediately away.
But then it would make like these really random cameos in like later games just out of nowhere, and I'd be like, no.
Right.
Like on like Last of Us, like it would like to get the lights back on, you'd have to shake the controller, and I mean that wasn't annoying, but it was just kind of like, okay, sure.
Again, it's like one of my favorite PS4 games. It's Persona 5 Royal. You have to play darts, and to play darts, you got to like flick the controller. Now, if you could picture somebody like sitting completely the wrong way in a recliner, having to suddenly sit up and make sure the controller's centered.
They're just trying to make sure you're awake, okay? It's like Netflix.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't-
are you still watching?
That's what it is. It is the are you still watching of video games? And I don't want it.
I don't know. I kind of like doing graffiti in like Infamous Second Son, just like flailing the controller around to paint.
I actually have a PS4 controller, which you can buy, and it's in the shape of an Xbox One controller, and it doesn't have the motion controls in it.
Interesting. All right, and Rick, so what's your favorite controller? I mean, least favorite controller.
So, I was going to go and pick on the Wii because, I'm like you guys. I don't like motion controls. I don't want them. But, the Wii, the nunchucks, the Wii Chuck or whatever, the Wii remote and the nunchuck, I mean, it set out to do something and it did it well. So I can't fault it. The controller that I think is like barely passing bare minimum to me is the Series X controllers. And here's why. So I do like the textures, like on the back and on the triggers. That does feel nice. That's appreciated. But the plastic, the casing feels so cheap. The seams, every one that I've touched, the seams where the shell comes together, they're always not even and they're sharp. Like I don't want to have to sand a controller. That's quality control. You should be doing that, Microsoft. Come on. The buttons feel so cheap. They feel like they're going to break. The D-pad is horrendous. I mean, it's shaped really well, but functionally it feels bad to me, and it's so loud. It's so loud. The trigger, not the triggers, what do you call it? The analog sticks. I hate the way it feels when they're rubbing against the siding of their little hole. I just there's so much I don't like about that controller. It works, but that's about all I can say.
As
I'm sorry, Slade.
No, as I'm listening, I'm holding my controller, and I'm like, y'all must have gotten some bad Xbox Series X controllers because mine, none of this.
But that's two of us. So if 2 out of 3 people are getting bad controllers,
then maybe I'm really lucky, is what I'll say.
yeah, we're not unlucky. You're just lucky.
Right.
Yeah, man. And I mean, hey, that's great for you.
Yeah.
I mean, one more thing that's ridiculous. In 2023, they take AA batteries.
No.
Why?
I will not hear this battery slander. I will
disagree.
not hear the battery slander.
hard disagree here.
Yeah, with the 1 foot cable they give you for the PS5. Come on.
That's just needless waste, though.
No, it's just get a rechargeable pack. That's what I have. You set it down in there and it recharges it forever.
I understand that, but here's my take on that. Same with the Wiimote, right? Is that if in like 15 years, if my battery dies in my Xbox Series X, I just get 2 more batteries, or I get rechargeable AA batteries and just use those until they go out. If my battery goes out in my PS4 or PS5 controller, I got to open that thing up and hope that I get a battery that doesn't suck and doesn't like instantly die either, because the only way you can replace that battery once it can't hold a charge is to get like a third party source to do that.
Right.
So yeah, short term, yes, batteries suck. Long term, I know I can still use that controller in 15 to 20 years. And if you say, well, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I see your purchases on our Discord channels, Rick. So I know you use old consoles.
No. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not discounting old controllers or anything. It's just, I mean, I guess it's pros and cons between each, right? I mean, pro for DualSense, no batteries. Con is it's a real hassle if the internal battery dies. Pro for the Xbox, super convenient to switch out those batteries. You can do that forever. The con is the waste, and then also if the connectors of the like in the battery shell fail, that's, I mean, which is unlikely, to be fair. I'm making up an argument.
Unless it happens to me, but it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't happen to me, then it doesn't matter. Right?
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, none of your problems have happened to me, so it's the greatest controller ever. That's.
I will say though, I did sell this controller, and I kind of regret it. But one of my favorite colors on a controller was the really vibrant pink and white one from Xbox. Looked terrific.
Yeah, the battery slander I won't stand for. I understand if you've gotten a bad product, but battery slander I'm not here for.
I did not realize that there were battery enthusiasts here.
I'm only here for battery slander.
Yeah,
That's the only reason I showed up today.
It's also ironic because of the controllers that they've made so far. I think they came out with like an eco controller made with recycled waste.
Yes,
like 100% with the recycled waste. Put your batteries in here.
Hey, off topic, but does anybody want to start a like a thrash band called Battery Slander?
Yeah, oh,
yes.
That'd be great.
Yes,
I guess I kind of get it. Like one of these Series X controllers on my desk is just for my PC, so it's constantly just USB-C powered, and that's fine. I'll never put batteries in that just because it's constantly plugged into my computer.
We should start a revolution. Bring back the wired controller. There was nothing wrong with it.
Except for my couch is on the other side of the room. That's the problem. I don't want to move the couch.
Hey, the 3DO controller, the cord is like 100 feet long.
Well, yeah, because you have to link it to every other controller.
Exactly.
And we like it that way.
Bring back the 3DO. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
No, don't do that. Let it live in the past.
And Rick, Battery Slander can tour with Alkaline Trio.
Oh
Hell
my
yeah.
goodness. A+.
All right. So moving on now. So my least favorite controller. This one pains me because I absolutely love the console it's attached to. But I have to say it's the Sega Dreamcast controller.
Oh, good pick.
Oh yeah.
Like literally. Okay, so from first glance, not bad. Like I don't find the controller itself to be uncomfortable. It's what's attached to it that ruins it for me. The analog stick is the worst, like probably the worst analog stick ever made. Like, why did they choose hard plastic? The Sega Saturn analog stick was fine. Like, you could have just reused that.
It was not.
I mean, it was better than the Dreamcast one.
Yes, it was. You're true.
I mean, and for that time period, I mean, it would have passed. But the Dreamcast one, oh, that thing sucks. The D-pad is massively inferior to the Sega Saturn D-pad. The buttons they exist, I guess. The UMD UMD is cool. I'll give it that. And the cord comes out of the bottom, and that's just annoying. It's like everything about it. It looks cool, but then like the more you look at it and hold it, you're like, this thing sucks, and I hate it because I love that console more than anything.
It's one of those controllers you look at and you think it's kind of like a product too early for its time. With the screen, with the screen on the controller, if that makes sense. Yeah, that kind of thing in the layout. I don't know.
It's
The
just
VMU is such. Oh, I'm sorry.
no. Go ahead.
The VMU is such a cool concept, but the implementation of it, especially with the default controller being sold without it, is god awfully ugly.
Yeah.
It looks terrible.
Not to mention the controller itself took steps back. It
yeah.
took the Saturn design. It took 2 buttons off the face, and this is a system that was still like notoriously known for fighting games. So I don't.
Yeah.
They had to change the design layout for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 essentially to accommodate the Dreamcast. That's why like it's all the functions are different. I can't think of any other reason why they did that. And I can just tell you, because I didn't have an arcade stick and I was into fighting games during that time, how many blisters and cuts and just how nasty my left thumb was because of how much I cut it on that damn sharp, hard D-pad.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Like literally the only redeeming thing about that controller to me is the triggers. I love the triggers. Like
Triggers are great.
To the point where I'm pretty sure Microsoft just stole them for like every console going forward. But yeah, I hate it so much because I love the Dreamcast more than anything. The controller is just, it's so just like infuriating how like average it is in like every way and just bad. Yeah, so that was me raging about the Dreamcast controller for a few minutes. Alex, we already know what Alex is going to pick, so you might as well just say it.
All right, you know what? I'm going to preface it. All right, Bill makes me play a lot of games for this podcast. I've had to play a lot of different consoles, but this has been the only one where I left the game. I left our little game session, and I was visibly angry because I hated it so much. So it's the N64. And I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. Why does it have this weird third thing in the middle? And someone made it worse by making a controller with just the third thing in the middle. Why? Why would you do that? That's stupid. It's dumb. Why did they do that? The only thing I see useful about it is someone made a controller desk organizer out of it. And that's all I can find use for it. That is all.
So yeah, the N64 controller.
I hate it.
I don't think genuinely anybody can defend the 64 controller. Like, I think
Good.
the only neat thing with it would be the fact that you could I think it was GoldenEye and a couple other games, Turok I think as well. You could like twin stick it.
Yeah.
Where you would plug two 64
Yep.
controllers in and use, one in each hand.
But no, that's dumb.
All right.
You cannot tell me.
Keep your
sense.
your hatred in the corner for a second. Let everyone talk.
No, I'm gonna take one shitty controller and multiply it by 2 to somehow make it better.
Well, yeah, if you take one turd and add another turd, it's like a better turd.
Super turd.
It's a shinier turd.
All right,
Right.
No,
Chris
I
is trying to say
disagree.
something.
Yes.
I'm just saying, I am not a Nintendo 64 system lover by any stretch of the imagination. I make fun of that system all the time. However, I am a N64 controller apologist. I think it is fine.
Ugh.
It's not the best controller,
Ugh.
but
Oh, shut up, Alex.
I cannot imagine another
Taking
way
my
to play.
headphones off. I can't listen to the
I will offend you as much as possible right now. I don't care. Take that. I cannot imagine a different way to play Star Fox 64 much more effectively than with a N64 controller. It's like perfect.
Okay.
And the
Alright,
D-pad is the best D-pad on a Nintendo console.
That's actually a
Maybe
good point.
if Bill didn't make me play shitty games like Buck Bumble, and all these maybe I'd have better opinions. But my experience with the N64 has sucked, and I haven't played it since then.
I kind of though like if you're watching, I don't know, like TV or a movie and they've got like symbols for controllers though, I always love seeing that shape above everything else. I don't know what it is.
It kind of looks like a dog. Like a dog with like a...
No, it does
It
not.
looks like an M.
No, I'm thinking of those dogs have the really long noses and look like a bicycle seat. All right.
If you add an N, to
Goodbye.
that word, maybe.
Goodbye, everyone. I
So-
quit the podcast.
That's 2 times now. So
It won't be the last.
I always say, like, my best way to describe the N64 controller, I always kind of agree with
Trash.
how James Rolfe described it.
Garbage.
I believe his description was literally like, it was weird then and it's weird now. And that's just kind of how I think of it. I mean, I don't hate it like Alex does, but I can't tell if she's joking half the time or not.
I'm not. I was visibly angry after that episode.
Fair. But yeah.
I hate it.
I actually
is-
have that controller that she's talking about where it's just like the center bit.
Why? Okay, maybe I could see you doing like the whatever you were talking about with 2 of those, because then it kind of I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
It's easier to swap like left hand and right hand with it. You don't have something in the way. It's oddly comfortable. That's all I'm gonna say. It's oddly comfortable.
Something's in the way.
All right. I would like to also point out the Mad Catz N64 controller is amazing. Just look at the thing. It's great.
Is that the black one which has the D-pad and the analog trigger on the same side?
No, that's the one with like the middle section. Legitimately looks like it's massive.
Oh,
What?
Look up the Mad Catz N64.
Oh goodness gracious!
I'm googling.
That's a Google search for anybody listening at home.
Oh.
That is.
Oh no!
It looks like somebody left their controller outside and it melted for a while.
Oh, wow. That looks like if an elephant was a controller.
See, that's what I was thinking.
I love that thing.
Ew,
I guess there is a Mad Catz one like you were describing, Chris. I was just thinking of that other one that we all just discovered.
Yeah, I don't want the official Mad Catz one. This is Interact. Yeah, don't want that Mad Catz one.
Yeah. Oof.
All right, that's a pretty cool desk organizer, not gonna lie.
See, I see the use for it there. Like, that's useful. You can even color code it.
Did you, Bill, I'm sure you've probably seen or looked at buying one. The glove they had to issue for the N64. Did y'all talk about that in your retrospective?
No,
because we got halfway through that and I realized, oh god, this is going badly real quick.
I'm back, by the way.
Okay. Do you?
How have you been? No.
The glove was a weird thing that they had to send out.
The glove for Mario Party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
What
people
the
kept.
hell is this?
I thought you were talking about the glove controller that was like motion controlled.
No. The glove controller for the 64. Because people kept wearing like a hole in their palm from like trying to win at Mario Party, the most competitive game of all time. Fight me.
That Nintendo they had to give out for free, and they had to settle a lawsuit. Yeah.
I would like to have one of those on my shelf.
I found one on eBay. You want it? No.
I don't want to know what someone did with it.
$250.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's in the box.
That doesn't mean anything, Alex.
True. All right. Well, it has some tape on it.
only used once. Might be a bit sticky or crunchy.
And on that note, some most nostalgic controllers, everybody. So, Chris, what's your most nostalgic controller?
You know, when I started the episode, I thought I was going to be saying the NES controller, but then I had to really sit down and think about what controller makes me like just all teary-eyed, and I love it, even though I didn't play it a lot as a kid, or I didn't have one in my house. I have one now, and I had its portable version, but that is the TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine controller. And it just kind of reminds me of every day after school, we go to, our babysitter's house or day-sitter's house or aftercare provider, whatever you want to call it. And we'd play some TurboGrafx. I think one of the reasons it's so nostalgic, it's just an experience that I got to have that I know a lot of other people didn't. And now that I have one of my own, just being able to like have those memories of playing that. And I guess the other thing is that because it wasn't at my house, getting to play it was special. So it kind of makes everything about the console more, just have a more mystique to it, and just give it more of a special feeling every single time I look at it. And yeah, it really takes me back, and I love it.
Nice. Yeah, the TurboGrafx controller is like one of those. There's just something cool about it. Like it's when you inherently look at it, it's basically just an NES controller, but it has the turbo buttons. The D-pad is really nice.
Yeah.
The buttons feel great.
I wouldn't say the D-pad's really nice. The D-pad's kind of jank, but it's not unusable. For sure. I mean,
it's better than the Master System, so that's automatically makes it better.
It's a low bar, but you're not wrong. It's certainly better than that. I say, I would honestly probably say it's better than the Saturn Model 1 D-pad, which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to be talking about that, but yeah, it's competent. It gets the job done, and it doesn't it's not intrusive, but it does. After a while, your thumb will hurt because it is kind of sharp.
Mm. It's funny, when I got my TurboGrafx like years ago, it came in this like the travel case thing that they had for it.
That's so cool.
And whoever the previous owner is had like 6 controllers for the thing, and they just gave me all of them. There's only one that actually fully functions. All of the other ones have something wrong with them. Like some the A button doesn't work, others the B button, the turbos don't work. There's some weird shit. And
it's not A and B, it's 1 and 2.
That is very true. That is very true. All right. So Slade, what is your most nostalgic controller?
So we have 2 again because I couldn't really decide. But the 2 most nostalgic for me, the first one is the GameCube. I feel like everybody had a GameCube. The GameCube is certainly popular in my family. I had it. The cousins around my age also had it. Great memories of playing like not only Zelda, but Mario Sunshine and Mario Party. The other one on top of that would have to be the PlayStation 2 controller. Because I don't think you could go to somebody's house early 2000s and they didn't have a PS2 kicking around somewhere.
I mean, you could probably trip on the side of the road and find a PS2.
Yeah, it is. If I'm not, isn't it still the most sold console of all time?
Yeah,
Yes.
the Switch is getting there though. It's getting close. So we'll see on that. Is the GameCube controller still like one of the most like lauded controllers out there? I'm pretty sure it still has a following.
Yeah, it does. So I actually, my only actually no, I have 2 Pro controllers now. My Pro controller that I normally use for my Switch is based off the GameCube. So it's the Smash game, or yeah, the Smash community, they love it for whatever reason. I just think it's the diagonals around both analog sticks makes fighting games a little bit easier, but it's big, it's chunky, feels nice. The buttons, I think the reason why it's such a prolific controller is that the buttons are so unique that without looking down or anything else, just by feel, you know what your thumb is on.
I will say this, it's probably the best controller for a pure 3D platformer.
No, very much.
The Smash players, I mean, they'll give you tons of reasons about how the notches make like reverse aerials so much more accurate and this is a hot take. The real reason that they all prefer it is because they've been using it for years and years and years, and it's comfortable.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
Straight up.
I just posted in the little chat we have for this my personal one that I use for my Switch. And yeah, it's like I said, it's just the fact that you know by feel alone, and if you or somebody like me who switches console to console, you will constantly get X wrong where it should be in your head. But just by feel, I don't have that with this controller.
Honestly, like my favorite part about the GameCube controller is like you take one look at it and like you just think like that doesn't make any sense, but like the second you hold it and like play a GameCube game, it just works. Like because like everything is kind of built around the primary button, which is the A button, and it works way better than it should. Although the D-pad is still microscopic and I don't like it.
D-pad sucks.
All these D-pad purists in here.
2D for life.
Yeah, boy.
That sounds bad out of context. Anyways. All right. So, Rick, what is your most nostalgic controller?
Okay, this is a niche one, and I'm going to post a picture in the chat as we are all doing, just because it is a niche one. But it is the Nyko Airflow XL for the PS2, and it's not. I mean, it's not one of the first controllers I ever had or anything, but I remember getting this and playing Devil May Cry 3 just nonstop, nonstop, it felt like the coolest thing in the world. So for folks listening at home, what this is it looks just like a chunkier PS2 controller. It's a little more fanned out. It's chunkier, and it's got built-in air conditioning for your hands. And the idea is you plug in the USB that's attached to it. So you have to plug it into the controller slot and the USB. And then you can turn the fan on, off, medium, or high as you're playing. So if you get sweaty hands when you're playing, it cools them off. And I remember thinking this was the coolest thing ever, even though if you used it for too long, it kind of made you sweat more somehow. But I miss this controller all the time. It makes me think of my childhood like nothing else does. It was not good, by the way. I looked up contemporary reviews. People hated this thing.
I love the idea behind it. Just like,
Yeah.
it's a controller with air conditioning built in. It's like, yes, I love that. But God, that was a different time for controllers where like there wasn't so much stupid crap crammed into them. So like you could actually like, it was so much easier for the third parties to like make like all these different weird variations of stuff.
Yeah, stupid crap jammed into him like a trackpad for whatever reason.
Yeah. I saw that coming from a mile away. Oh man. All right. So I guess for my most nostalgic controller, this one's pretty standard, but it's the DualShock 2. That was literally the controller of my childhood. So many like years of just playing, because once the PS2 came out, the PS2 just became the PS1. So it was basically every PlayStation 2 and PS1 game I had at the time was just like constantly running through that thing. And I mean, nowadays, contemporarily, the controller is not super comfortable. It's a bit small for my liking, and the analog sticks are a little slippery, in my opinion. But I love that D-pad. I love the button configuration. The rumble's just right. I love the analog triggers. Like, that controller just like reminds me of like gaming from back in the day.
It's a good pick, man. My DualShock 2, the analog sticks are kind of loosey goosey. Makes me real sad.
I've been through many of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a reliable controller. It's backwards compatible with the PS1 as well, and you don't have to worry about being wasteful with batteries or anything with it. So
here we go. Here we go.
This entire podcast is just becoming shots fired every 5 minutes. I mean, it is a debate, so I guess that's kind of what I was going
I have to tell you why you're wrong about liking Sony's controllers. You have to bring up batteries for whatever reason. It's fine. Let's just make more waste for the environment. That's the sacrifice I'm willing to make.
So
in this argument,
The DualShock also had
N64 sucks.
Go away.
Just saying.
Also, I forgot to mention, it has pressure sensitive buttons. I don't think I've ever I don't think I ever noticed a game where that mattered, but
Wasn't it one of the Metal Gear Solids? Didn't it do that?
Yes,
or Grand Theft Auto?
2.
Ah, gotcha.
I know Kojima definitely messed around with it. I know.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Bill, but didn't also that ATV game that came with like everybody's?
Oh well, yeah, racing games definitely used it because you pressed harder and the cars did go faster. Most people didn't do that though, because I always hated pressing down that hard on the buttons because I was always afraid I was going to break it.
You never played the bouncer?
Oh my, yeah, that's right.
The bouncer.
The bouncer.
Proto Kingdom Hearts. At least in terms of character designs.
We have to ask Eric from the Unlockables where the bouncer falls in the Kingdom Hearts timeline.
I'm sure he'd like figure it out.
I was shocked. Like, you look at the cover, it's called The Bouncer. The Sora on the front, I mean, he's like standing like a bouncer. You're like, oh, okay, this is like a standard brawler. And then I looked up the story, and there's like magical pumas, and I was like, what is going on with this game?
I almost took a sip of my drink, and I'm glad I did.
That's a weird one.
Tetsuya Nomura is an interesting guy. I mean,
The belts.
yeah. And Alex, what is your most nostalgic controller?
Probably also the DualShock one because the PlayStation 2 was our childhood. That is the PlayStation 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I have to make sure. I think of it as like I always think in terms of this was the PlayStation 2 controller, and I remember we had a green one, and that's the green
No,
one.
that was a DualShock 1.
That was a DualShock. What?
That was a
What?
DualShock
Oh.
1. That
All
was a
right,
PS1
womp
controller.
womp. It was? I thought it had the analog sticks. I don't know. I don't know what's going.
See-
I'm not good at this, Bill. I told you this before.
See, so
yeah, it was well, regardless, PlayStation 2 because that was our childhood, and I wish we had this controller, but we didn't. But that's fine. But I wish we had this one. I
God.
just said to the
I don't
chat.
want to be here anymore. For those of you listening at home, it's a PS2 controller that's just a Patrick Star from SpongeBob.
the placement of those analog sticks is very interesting.
It's
You know
very
what's better?
titillating.
You know what's even better? Is when you look at it from the back. Oh my
Oh God.
Hey, have you joined the Gaming and Collecting Discord? This photo will probably be in there.
Yep.
And
Most
then you'll
likely.
know what
No,
we're looking
it's
at.
just in this chat. It's just for you guys. There you go. There's the back of
Oh.
it.
Why Patrick
Ooh.
got to be thick, though?
Why is he
Why
throwing
not?
it back though?
I don't know. Well, it's a great controller. That's all I can say.
What has this become?
Billy, you asked me to do this, so.
That is true. All right, so for our next topic, we're going to talk about the guilty pleasure controller. That is the controller that you know it's bad, but you love it regardless of, and it just brings you joy for whatever reason. So, Chris, what is your guilty pleasure controller?
It is the PlayStation dual analog flight stick. That thing is so freaking cool. And it's mostly completely and totally worthless because
Yes.
even the games that are compatible with it, with the exception of Descent, you're almost better off playing with a regular controller. It is a complete novelty. But if you do play Descent like I have, I that's why I swear by it. I'm like, no, you gotta play this. It's amazing. And then you play any other game with it, and you're like, amazing. Yeah, because it's not, but it looks cool. You can use it to pretty much play any PlayStation game as well. And I don't know why you would, but you can. And you should probably try that because it brings you joy, and you can pretend that you're shooting down other aircraft like a 10-year-old in your office all by yourself when no video games are on, and just go hold it and go, I don't know who would, but you can do that.
So I think
Oh,
It's
that thing looks
absolutely not from
badass.
experience.
No.
this is the
No.
controller you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that thing is badass.
I
That
love
looks
it.
sick.
The fact that exists at all is just freaking epic.
Yeah. And like I said, you just play Descent with it. That's all it's for. It's the PlayStation Descent controller. Because if you try playing anything else, it's just, you'd think it would work well with Ace Combat, and for some reason it does not.
No,
So-
Namco had to make their own weird controllers to like.
Of course they did.
All right, so Slade, what is your favorite guilty pleasure controller?
Sure. I was making fun of it earlier, but it's actually the Joy-Cons.
Oh, okay.
It's actually the Joy-Cons. Simply because it makes sharing so easy, right? For things like Mario Kart or Mario Party. Just the fact that you can hand somebody one and say, yeah, up, down, left, right, and a joystick. And that's all they need to know.
Mm.
And like
Oh.
two shoulder buttons that are, if you have the little clip thing that goes over it, even if you don't, it's still grooved so you can get your like fingertips in there. Like I think there's some good thought behind it.
Oh, it's definitely the
There
most.
is.
Like,
I play it all the time. No.
it's definitely the most Nintendo thing I think I could ever think of, because like everything about that controller just screams like Nintendo's like way of thinking, and it's like it's not great, but at the same time, it's really intuitive. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those harsh lesson learned kind of controllers.
Hmm.
Nintendo never learns lessons.
No,
No, they do kind of.
they're still living in '95 half the time though. So
The Rumble's really good with them.
Oh, the Rumble's extremely good with them.
I look over at my like weird like third party like chunky ass controller like Joy-Cons I have stuck on the side of mine.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Zelda ones that I have.
Yeah. I love the Switch though. The Switch there's so much great stuff going for the Switch, even if it is underpowered.
It's fine. It doesn't need to be overpowered.
That's true.
It doesn't need it.
All right. So Rick, what is your favorite guilty pleasure controller?
Okay, so I slightly misunderstood the prompt, so I'm going to give two answers. Real quick, the first one that I had originally thought of, I was just like, oh, a controller I really like, but like I feel guilty about liking it, and I feel guilty about liking it because of the price tag on it. But it's the DualSense Edge that just somewhat recently came out.
Okay.
It's the PS5 Elite controller, basically. It's a DualSense, obviously, but the joysticks feel way better. They're modular. You can take the joysticks out and replace them. The triggers on the back, there's only two of them, but they've got different like styles of triggers. I don't know. It's incredibly comfortable. I really like it. But to the prompt that Bill set up, a controller that you know is bad, but you still have a big fondness for it. And I'm going to post it in the chat just in case anybody hasn't used one, is the Steam controller.
Oh.
That is coming up later.
Oh, buddy. I wanted to love this so much. So for folks listening, if you've never seen one, it might be better to just Google it, but it's picture like a PS, it's like a bulbous generic shape of a controller. It's got a PlayStation stick layout if they were closer together. But instead of the right stick, that's where the face buttons are. So you've got to reach over to really hit those face buttons. And instead of having a D-pad, and then, on the other side where that would be too, there are two huge circular trackpads that are like touch pads. They're with haptic feedback. It and I mean the triggers are whatever. There are like a few games where it works super well and everything else is terrible. When I started playing Rocket League like years ago, this is what I started with, and I was like, wow, this game is so hard. And then I switched off it, and I was like, oh, actually, it's not that bad. The controller is just terrible.
There's so many little things that it should have going for it. The fact that it has paddles underneath, the overly sensitive triggers, good shoulder button layout. There's a lot going for it.
It can double as a mouse. I mean, if you've got it plugged into your PC, you don't have a mouse for some reason, you could use that. It's just, man, it sucks to use. It really does.
I don't know if you ever tried it, but they said you could play like an RTS with it, and I tried to play Civ 5 with it once, and that was nearly a nightmare.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I briefly tried. It was either Disco Elysium or Divinity Original Sin 2. It was one of those like mouse games, and it's not great.
It looks like the awkward love child of like an Xbox 360 controller and the Wii U Pro controller.
You can't see it in the picture that I posted, but I cannot emphasize enough how bulbous the grips are.
It looks like it would go great with an Ouya.
Ugh.
With a what now?
Who remembers the Ouya?
One of my co-hosts has an Ouya.
Does it even work anymore?
No.
Okay.
Rick, do you not know the good word of the Ouya?
I tried to spell it into Google how I think it's spelled, and I am not getting.
Well, it's not like but it's
Ouya.
So,
Ouya.
Fun fact, I was at a Best Buy like a little while ago, and I was walking through the clearance section, and they still had Ouyas on the shelf, and I was like, oh my.
What? I would have bought one for the hell of it.
I really didn't need to spend the money. I just kind of was like, that is particular. I was like,
are one of the face buttons labeled U?
Yes.
What the fuck? Oh, I see. It's okay. I see. It's the name. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the most genuine. Oh, going back, I just thought of another argument for why the PlayStation controllers are awful. They don't call the X button an X button; they call it a cross, and that's dumb.
I said that at the beginning, and then somebody else said it too, and I was like, am I like I was trying to be funny. I thought people would pick up on that. It's X. It's not cross. It's X.
See, yeah. I said it to just to see if anyone would say anything, and no one did. So I was kind of like, "Oh, okay."
It just dawned on me.
I call it cross. Sorry.
I alternate.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, guilty pleasure controllers. So mine is, it's pretty obvious. It's the 3DO controller.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's the bastard love child of a Genesis and a Super Nintendo controller. Its D-pad is about as average as it gets. The buttons, everything about the controller is extremely average. But I love it because I love the 3DO, but also it's just so. The funniest thing about the 3DO is like there is like no standard controller. Like there's the one that comes with the console, but like you can plug like whatever into that thing and it works. Like they have like alternate ones that are like shaped like Super Nintendo controllers, like regular, like there's standard like button layouts, and none of them work right because the way they're programmed is weird. There's also a Street Fighter controller that's like ungodly to look at and hold. But my favorite aspect of it is, we said it earlier, you daisy chain for multiplayer, and it is the dumbest but most amazing thing ever, because like you could have like a 6-player game of like some like party game or a racer or something, and if you're player one and you just get salty and like pissed off at everyone else, you can just unplug everybody and be like, I win. It's the greatest, stupidest idea ever, and I love it.
The 3DO.
So has anyone else actually held a 3DO controller, or am I the only one?
You're all alone in here, Bill, as far as I'm concerned.
Just you, Bill.
Okay.
I've seen one.
Alex has held one because we played it for a while. Well, actually, no. I used the Panasonic controller. I gave her the shitty Gold Star one.
Oh, go fuck yourself. How dare you?
I posted it in the chat for anyone who needs reference, but yeah, it is a marvel. Oh, it has a headphone jack too, and the greatest thing about the headphone jack is you plug in and it works, but it doesn't actually mute the TV, so it's like pointless.
So what if you mute your TV? Will it have audio out?
Yeah, it'll output out of the audio jack. It's really funny when you plug in the jack, but it doesn't mute the TV, and if you don't realize it, it's just kind of funny.
Huh.
But only the first generation controllers had the audio jack. The later ones removed it. Yeah.
I gotta wonder why they only put 3 buttons on that thing.
Challenge.
3DO. The 3DO company really wasn't thinking it through, despite.
Why would they need to think? No.
Well, my favorite thing about the 3DO controller is you have you have your A, B, and C buttons, but then for the center you have stop and play pause, but their actual letters are X and P. Like, just okay.
What?
Yeah, the letters for the center, like start select, are X and P.
P.
3DO's great.
I wish I knew more. I'm typically the person who knows about this obscure console stuff, but I don't know anything about the 3DO, man.
Yeah,
I wish I did.
That's my niche. Maybe I'll start a podcast about it or something.
Yeah, you should think about that.
That's the gaming and collecting spinoff, right?
It's not as good because I'm not on it. No, just kidding. I make it worse. It
exists. Well, it kind of does. It's not going right now, but that's besides the point. So Alex, what is your guilty pleasure controller?
Okay, so I also thought like it was guilty pleasure, like not in like a bad way, and like I was thinking on the same lines as so originally my thought was the Virtual Boy controller, because it was really comfortable and I really enjoyed playing it, besides the fact that you had to awkwardly sit on the floor and crane your neck to look at it. But the controller was really comfortable, and the buttons, I really like the buttons on the back. But if I'm talking about horrible one, I really enjoy the spoon from the Philips CDI, where it just looks like a spoon. I can send a photo for reference. Oh shit, I fucked it up again. I don't know how to send pictures, but it's a spoon. Like, it's a spoon. It's great. Look at it. You could ladle some mashed potatoes or something.
It's like a child's spoon when you're teaching them how to eat.
Yeah.
For the audience at home, if you're not
But
Googling
it's
what the
not a
controllers here
spoon,
look like.
it's a game controller.
That reminds me of the RPG controller by ASCII for the PlayStation.
I'm legit looking for one of those right now because that's like seems like a cool idea, even though I doubt I'd ever use it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Spoon.
You've never held one of these before, I'm assuming.
No, I
Alex.
haven't, but I wish I could.
I don't own a CDI.
You don't own a CDI, but you did own a Virtual Boy.
I do own the Virtual Boy controller. For what it's worth, is actually
really
pretty nice.
Comfortable, yeah. Like, it is a really comfortable controller. But the guilty part is like, who wants to play that? Because you have to sit on the floor and look at a red screen and hurt your eyes.
Mm.
Oh.
Has anyone else here used a Virtual Boy before?
Spoon.
I actually had one as a kid.
Oh,
have
really?
one now,
You
yeah.
did.
Yes, I had one as a child, and then I asked my parents about it, and they said, "Yeah, we sold it for $20 at a yard sale back in like the early 2000s."
Oh.
Oh no!
And then I showed them an eBay listing for
Magic.
one.
And they said, fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
The controllers, though, they are fantastic. It's such an underrated controller.
It
Mm.
is.
I like their idea, like for early 3D, because the analog stick wasn't really a thing yet. I like the idea behind like the two D-pads. Like it made sense at the time, even though like only like maybe like 2 games actually used it, which was a shame. But yeah. All right. So any other thoughts on guilty pleasure controllers before we move on?
I don't know if I took guilty pleasure, I guess, the wrong way as well. So I'd like to throw one in there, but it's a lovely controller and it's fantastic in every way, and that's the Valve Index controller. If you're not aware of the Valve Index controllers, I'll grab a photo to show everybody. It is their VR controller setup.
Oh, okay.
I have been a long-time supporter of VR, simply since I have like an Oculus dev kit.
Oh, really?
And yes, so I've been a long-time supporter of these things. So the Index controller, what's neat about them is that they use a lot of really cool technology that partially came from the Wii for like motion sensitivity, but it does one-to-one pairing with your hands when they slide in there.
Huh.
So all of your fingers are tracked, like every single one of them. So if you're playing a multiplayer game like squads with your friends, you can shoot the bird just by literally holding your middle finger up.
Gaming's getting complicated.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, they feel so natural to your hand. When these things came out, Half-Life Alyx came out, and one of the big things in the Half-Life series is the gravity gun. In this case, they give you the gravity gloves, and it is, if you imagine your hand goes in between where if you see like the little wrist strap and the hard plastic body, and all you have to do is hold 2 fingers up and flick your wrist backwards, and you can pull anything towards you, and you get so comfortable to that gesture at some, like, while you're playing, that you're not even looking at what you're picking up anymore. You're just doing the motion.
Huh.
And the one-to-one pairing with where your hands actually are in the physical space versus, where they are in the digital space is perfect in every way.
Huh.
VR is one of those things that I'm like curious about, but I just don't think I'll ever get into.
You just got to take the dive, my man.
True. All right. So moving on this time. Now for real this time, we're going to be talking about so another fun topic I wanted to discuss was, what is everyone's least favorite popular controller? Like a controller that is like universally like lauded by pretty much everybody, but you just can't stand for whatever reason. And to start this off, Chris, what is your least favorite popular controller?
I won't say I can't stand it, but I've always tried to find an alternate to it, just because I'll get into it. But it's the Xbox 360 controller, which you talk to anyone from 2 generations ago. I don't know what generation it was. The Xbox 360 gen. There you go. Makes sense. But you talk to anyone during that generation, and like it just got like a lot of people thought it was like the best controller ever made, and it does like feel comfortable in the hand per se. But over time, there's so many issues that I had with it. One is that the rubber on the analog sticks just wears down rapidly over time. So when you first get it, it has these 4 nice little nubs. Feels really comfortable, like the little dots inside the analog stick itself, and they just wear down. And I thought it was just me being too rough on my controllers, but everywhere you go, if you look for a used Xbox 360 controller, it's like universal across the board. They are not meant to like last in any sort of appealing way. Then there's the D-pad, which, if you know, I've said D-pad a million times already on this podcast. And with my favorite controller being the Saturn controller, I need a good D-pad or else I'm very turned off. And the D-pad on that controller sucks. It makes the Master System controller look like a work of genius. That is it. Like it's terrible. And I tried playing Catherine with it because that was the way I played Catherine, was on the Xbox 360. And I do not like using the analog controller for something that requires precise movement. And I'll tell you, I had to start using the analog controller because that D-pad was far worse. It's I don't know, just major turnoff. So while I don't hate it, it's fine for 3D games or first-person shooters, which I don't like first-person shooters anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. But it is good for 3D games in and of themselves, but it's just, I've always looking for an alternate, and I don't know. It's just not something I hold up high as a controller of high standard.
That's fair. That D-pad is something else. Like, it's weird how the D-pad is more imprecise than like the analog stick when it comes to like,
It's awful.
like certain things. Like, I'll be scrolling through a menu and I'll like just go diagonal for no reason. I'll be like, okay. Yeah, 360. It's weird because that controller is adored, but at the same time, like,
I hate
don't
it.
know.
I really don't have much experience using one. I was always kind of baffled at how popular it was too. But yeah, I've really never used one.
I guess I just kind of did a mic drop. See you all later.
All right. I'm holding my tongue for a reason, but
Oh no.
so Slade, what is your least favorite popular
Do
controller?
you want to see my same argument for the PS3 through 5 controllers? Because that's really what it is.
Copy
Okay.
paste.
Yeah, copy and paste that, because when the fact that I go out of my way to get a PS4 controller that's built like a Xbox controller, it just shows to me the poor design. I don't understand the needless gimmicks added to it.
You need to waste batteries.
Yeah, that's really what it is, right? It's just to drain the battery life and to make me not want to use it. But also, I don't understand this directional pad thing. As somebody who has thousands of hours on his 360, I've never had these D-pad issues. Maybe y'all
You
just don't know
ignore
how to hold a
them.
controller. I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
I think you're in the minority when it comes to the D-pad thing. That one.
I've never had that issue because I also like using a D-pad when I want to be precise, because analog sticks cannot be as precise as a D-pad. I
True.
don't. Yeah, I don't get it. I've never had the issues, but I'm sorry you did.
It's okay.
Again, I think this is one of those, we are not the unlucky ones. You are the lucky one. No, we are the unlucky ones. I'm sorry. No, we're just normal. Where am I going with this? You're the lucky one.
Who are you?
We've just completely lost. We're going slowly insane
Damn it.
talking about video game controllers.
Ever since I saw that thick Patrick Star controller, my mind hasn't been the same.
I've just been waiting to
You've
go
just
find
been
some
looking
oil.
at it this whole time.
Did you say some oil?
Yeah.
I mean, is that one the worst, or is like the SpongeBob joystick like plug and play game worse?
I don't want to derail it, but I just I found a Twitter thread and somebody posted a picture of a Shadow the Hedgehog 2 or Shadow the Hedgehog PS2 controller. That's pretty bad.
Ow, the edge.
Ow.
Oh boy, where was I? So Rick,
Talking about thick Patrick Starr's oily eyes.
Hell yeah.
Why are they oily? What?
Ow. Someone really liked the controller.
So Rick, what is your least favorite popular controller?
I mean, I could very well say the Series X controllers, but I also was thinking of the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but at the same time, it's not a bad controller. There's just nothing pro about it. It's very basic. So I think my least favorite controller that I use sometimes is the Elite controllers from Xbox. You spend 20 minutes with them and you're going to be like, oh, this is nice. But the reality is they have horrendous quality control issues. The Series 1, the casing, or not the casing, there's like a, what do you call it? Like a gel sort of overlay on the back grips. Like that peels off so easily. Both the Series 1 and the Series 2, they develop stick drift like crazy. The buttons are prone to sticking and not working. It's just a quality control wise, it's an absolute disaster for how much you pay for one of those. It is, it's not great. It's great when it works, but oh my God, I can't believe they cost so much and they're still so poorly regulated.
It's getting concerning how expensive controllers are getting now. Like they're almost as expensive as the consoles at this point, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Or how they don't come down in price anymore.
No.
Yeah.
It's like when GameStop took away the ability to get like free controllers with your points.
Yeah. Like I understand when they launched because like the tech's new. I can understand with like the DualSense or the Joy-Cons when they came out, and like yeah, I can understand it. But like a few years down the line, it's been like 7 years, Nintendo. I don't think the Joy-Cons need to cost $80 anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
And they still haven't fixed the drift issue either.
Nor will they.
No, probably not. I felt bad for the people with the Switch Lite who got the Joy-Con drift, like, because that basically just sucked.
Blech.
All right. Now for my least favorite popular controller, basically just take everything Chris said about the Xbox 360 controller and copy paste because I have the same opinion.
Woohoo! Same wrong opinion.
I mean, the controller is fine. I just hate that D-pad and it ruins it for me. What is Alex?
This just sounds like a skill issue over everything.
Okay. What games were you playing with that D-pad?
Oh shit, there's a lot of games. Like I have a stack to nearly the ceiling of 360 games here in my house.
Yeah, but like what shmups? What 2D platformers?
What 2D platformer was, I mean, other than Catherine, mind you, what was on the 360 that was just
Braid?
like strict... You said Raid?
Braid.
Braid? I didn't play Braid.
Or Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
It played fine. I didn't have any issue. I think it's a skill issue.
Ooh.
This is getting heated now.
You wanted the debate.
This is like when you go on like a Reddit thread trying to find a problem or solve a problem that you're having with your computer, and somebody's like, I don't know, it works for me.
Yeah.
I can see him playing Death Smiles with the D-pad, being like, yeah, this is fine. Like,
because that's
dude.
how I navigated all the menus for everything with the D-pad for that controller.
Navigating menus is not the problem.
I'm racking my brain trying to think of something specifically I needed that for. That wasn't like indie games.
Like, I'm afraid to play my copy of Automatius Excellent, which came with a fantastic pillowcase with an anime waifu on it. Don't ask me any questions, because like I'm afraid of like having to use the D-pad for that, and it's not backwards compatible with the Series X, or else I would play it. But yeah, like if I'm playing a shmup And there are a lot of good shmups on the 360. Don't tell me there aren't.
I wonder if it's because we talked about the joysticks on it and how they wear out, which I'll admit to, but I've replaced mine several times, and I'm wondering if it's that inadvertently I've fixed whatever problem it is for its sensitivity by rebuilding my controller so many times.
Did you swap out the D-pad? Because that could have been it.
No, I never swapped the D-pad out, but I've had to recenter it each time you put the controller back together.
Maybe.
So I'm wondering if I inadvertently have solved a problem that I would have had.
So for anyone wondering, Alex has been just posting cursed controllers in the chat this whole time, and Rick has been responding with the Alex rage face.
Well,
I was just going to ignore it.
I found the GameCube controller with beans, but then I kept scrolling, and then I found an N64 controller with beans. And maybe I'd play the N64 if you had beans in the controller.
All right, Alex.
That's the story. Oh my! What? Anyway.
So Alex, what is your least favorite popular controller?
I don't know. I've been thinking this whole time, and I don't know.
It's the one that doesn't have beans in it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I found one that had jeans. It was denim.
What?
I found one with look. The controller was a jeans Xbox controller.
Okay.
It has little pockets too. You could put coins.
I would actually, I would use that. That's cute. I like it.
I like the idea of in what is the belt loop on this denim for the controller, having a single Cheeto in there.
But you could put those in the pockets though too.
Yeah, it's a snack loop. That's what that is.
No, it's where you stuff quarters when you want to challenge the person playing the like the old arcade way of saying I'm next.
I was thinking Slim Jim minis, one on each side.
Oh yes,
yes.
That nice greasy snack.
See, Alex is this is a cursed controller, and all of us are oh man, this is really practical.
I found this one. Why are they furry? Why are they furry?
You know why? You don't ask questions you don't want answers to.
That was an actual thing. I think that was a giveaway.
Was that really a thing?
It was, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
why?
Those are real.
I feel
was
like
for
that'd
Sonic.
be gross. Your hands.
No, that would be gross. Well, no, that's just great.
That's perfect.
That is
I
perfection.
was looking for curse shit, and all I found was
audience. If you've never seen the Sonic furry controllers, Google that real quick.
And then she
well,
posted.
be
save
careful.
search off.
Be
save
careful.
Search off.
This is Bill. I took this from Bill.
Yes, you were going to want to type Sonic furry, the minus key, and then the word controller. That's going to get you where you need to go.
The other one is just a Pizza Hut bite stick, and then picture a controller covered in Cheeto dust.
Oh, this is foul.
Okay, Alex didn't have an answer, so she just wanted to break everybody.
Sure, the Fisher Price controller. There we go. All right, there's Alex's.
All right. So before we completely go,
Rick, your comment.
Bill, I thought that the anime roundtable was bad for going off the rails, but man, look what you've done.
I'm sorry.
By the way, there are 34 rules against looking for a Sonic furry controller. So type in Sonic furry rule 34 and you can find out why you don't want to use it.
It's very interesting. There's a whole deep history with Nintendo. It's crazy.
You know what the worst part is?
Deep history.
The worst part is our mother's going to listen to this and she's going to ask me what is rule 34? And I'm going to be like, no.
Let her find out.
No, don't.
No.
She's too naive. She'll actually look it up.
It's all a part of the internet code of 177013.
All right.
If you know, you know.
Okay, let's move on to the final topic of this discussion.
I'm sorry, Bill and Alex's mom. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Well then.
All right. So we did our least favorite popular controller. Now, what is everybody's favorite unpopular controller? A controller that nobody likes but you love.
Oh.
So, Chris.
I might be misplaced on this. I think people don't like it, but I feel like when I say what controller it is, I think people are going to be like, yeah, I like it. I think this is just my own perception because I'm in love with the system. So it's the Wii U gamepad. I think it's a fantastic controller. I think it's incredibly ergonomic. I think it fits in your hand perfectly. And I think it's if the Switch somehow managed to have like the kind of same form factor and just fit into your hand like a glove like it does, like I would enjoy playing the Switch a lot better other than with my Hori Pro Pad. Yeah, Wii U gamepad is magnificent, and I don't think it ever gets the amount of credit it deserves. So go get a Wii U gamepad. Well, get a system too, because it's worthless without it. But
Yeah.
yes, it's great.
I actually never had a problem with the controller itself. I just hated the fact it had its own dedicated charger. That always bugged me for whatever reason.
Understandable.
Mostly because I keep losing the damn thing, and like the controller is useless without it.
It is a proprietary charger, isn't it?
Yep.
Doesn't it? It doesn't work with like any of the DSs or anything.
No,
Looks like it does.
It's its own special, like bigger one.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice of them. But yeah,
Also,
I think it's fantastic and very comfortable. It has a nice little screen.
the best way to emulate DS games.
Yes.
I still don't know how we're gonna emulate DS games in the future, but any other defense on the Switch Wii U controller? Or
See, that's the thing. I just have to say it's amazing, and I was wrong because no one is saying that they don't like it. So we all know I was wrong. It's not an unpopular controller. It is the most popular controller. You can tell by the Wii U sales.
Hell yeah.
Who doesn't know about the Wii U? It's so bad.
So bad, it's good.
It is. It's great. All right, so the awkward.
Someone speak.
It's okay. We talked about it earlier, and mine is actually the Steam controller. I kind of have a soft spot for controllers or things that try to learn or innovate beforehand. So you've heard us kind of talk about it already, but the trackpad system from that Valve used in their first headset, which is the HTC Vive.
Mm-hmm.
And in it actually is really intuitive and it works tremendously. It just sucks that this controller had to kind of be the sacrificial lamb to figure that out.
Can you still get one of those?
Which one?
The Steam Pad?
Yeah, you can. They're on eBay, and I don't know if Valve sells them directly anymore, to be honest. But
no production, they're still pretty expensive.
I saw some for $30 on eBay. So,
oh damn,
yeah. The thing was though, you were supposed to have it and a Steam Link, and the Steam Link was just like a little hub that you would plug into your TV, and then you could play your PC games from the couch. So the two of these kind of coincided together, and that was because, like, if you think about it, consoles especially are more geared to, like, you know, couch play, or if you're like me, the recliner play, and PC is very like, I'm sitting here focused on this one machine. I can't just hand somebody my mouse and keyboard. So it's, I guess, trying to bring that to the casual audience.
No, I get what you're saying. It's such a weird, like, idea. Just the controller itself. I kind of get where you're going with it, but I also kind of agree with Rick's perspective on it earlier. So it's I don't know about it.
I have a soft spot for it, if that makes sense. I don't think it's the best controller, but yeah, it's got a little soft spot for me.
That makes sense.
And it doesn't have the 6-axis.
Right, no motion control. See, so we're doing good. We're better than Sony.
There it is.
All right. So Rick, what is your favorite unpopular controller?
Man, see, so this is kind of what I thought the guilty pleasure talk was. So I'm all over the place here. And the Bean controllers have thrown me completely off the rails. So I'm gonna mention I'm gonna mention two of them. One of them, this is probably cheating. But one of them is just unpopular because nobody ever talks about it anymore. But it's like the actual Pico system from Sega that they made years and years ago. It's technically a children's toy, but it's like kind of a video game too. And the controller part of it, quote unquote, is just like where the keyboard would be on a laptop. It's like it's got a couple buttons on the side, but it's got like a large surface to draw on. And most of the games are educational. As far as I know, I think they all were. But yeah, it's something that I never see people talk about it, and I sometimes think about buying one on eBay just because, like, oh yeah, my neighbor had this as a kid. We played it all the time. It was, fun for children. I think it's cool.
I think the hardware specs were like it was literally a Genesis just with this wacky controller.
Yeah.
Apparently you could mod the little game booklet cartridges to play on like a Mega Drive or something. I don't know. But my real answer though is the Joy-Cons, the Switch Joy-Cons. Like I know objectively they are not good. I really do. But if you throw them on that little included controller like dock thing, the plastic thing that comes with the Switch, I really don't think they're that uncomfortable. I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, yeah, they're really unreliable, and I'm not going to pretend that they're not. But in a pinch, like I've played competitive Smash with the Joy-Cons like that. It gets the job done, and I mean, it's the first of its kind. It's the first controller that came out that was specifically docked to a console in such a way. I don't know. I think it's neat. I kind of like them, even though they are pretty bad.
Yeah.
And literally unpopular because no one knows about it. Like, very into that definition. I like that pick. I think that's a good pick.
Wait, what? The Pico?
Yeah. Like, not unpopular isn't like people don't like it, but as an unpopular as no one knows what it is. Great pick.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. I think there's one selling on my local Facebook marketplace for like $60. I've been thinking about it. I've got it saved, but that's a lot of money to throw for like a joke.
It reminds me a lot of like a proto version of like the Leap Pad, if anyone remembers the Leap Pad.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Alex loved the Leap Pad. That was her like shit.
Did. That was my childhood.
All right. So now for mine. Mine is a bit obscure. It's kind of related to Chris's choice. My favorite unpopular controller is actually the Wii U Pro controller, if anyone remembers that.
Yes.
So the Pro controller is hilarious to me because it is literally a 360 controller in terms of shape. But they decided to use the Wii U's button layout, and for whatever reason, like, there's just something weird about the analog sticks being above the buttons to me, like that, like, shouldn't work. But for whatever reason, I just love that controller, and that kind of became my like definitive Wii U controller when I didn't have to use the gamepad. Like, it was my go-to Smash Brothers controller for the longest time because I didn't have the GameCube adapter at first. And I don't know, I love that thing. Plus, it like holds a charge for like a year, and it's great.
That thing that thing never dies. It will never die. It's incredible.
Do you think that we're just unaware, but Nintendo has made some weird patent on battery life, and Sony's just not allowed to have it?
No, because they released the Wii U gamepad.
Never mind. You're right.
Yeah, the 3DS had pretty shit battery life when it first came out too. They might have a patent though for like whatever wizardry was in the freaking DS Lite. Like, those things never died.
No, and they held their charge for years.
My Game Boy Advance SP, the last time I charged it was before I moved. Actually, before the podcast was started. It still has a charge. So make that of what you will. All right. And Alex, did you have an answer for this one, or?
I guess it would be the Joy-Cons because everyone hates them apparently, except for me.
I'm surprised you didn't say like the Jaguar controller because you like.
I mean, I do love me some Jaguar, but I also know that the number buttons were pretty useless, so I can't.
That's very true.
I can't deny that. But I can't really deny that. Oh, you know which controller I really like? I've never held one, but I've always wanted to. And it's the GameCube one that just has a freaking keyboard
Oh,
attached
the
to it.
Fantasy Star controller.
Yeah.
There's something about that just makes me smile.
I'm
whenever
trying to
I
find
see
one of those, and they are
it.
expensive for no reason.
I think they're expensive for a reason. I mean, look at that work of fucking art, Bill. What are you talking about? Oh, you can get one on Etsy. They made a Logitech one. I'm just looking at them now.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that was all the topics I came up with. So is there any other controllers that like anyone wants to bring up that like weren't mentioned like specifically by any chance?
This one was mentioned, but I got to give a shout out. Like I know we kind of poo-pooed it, rightfully so, but I have a real soft spot for the Saturn Model 1 controller, and it's like fucking weird little circular divots on the D-pad that make it feel very bizarre. I just have such a soft spot for that ugly thing.
It's funny. It's like fun to me. Like everything about it like is so just like bizarre compared to the Model 2 controller, but at the same time you're fascinated by it. Like you stare and you're like, that is interesting. Like, why is it like this?
Yeah.
But
and the weird thing is that controller is so memory hold by so many gamers. I don't see anyone when they talk about Saturn controllers bring up that one unless like you're talking to a like hardcore Saturn collector. You look at any picture of the Saturn, anyone who picks up for the Saturn, they're like, yeah, Saturn controller is awesome. Never gets mentioned, never gets brought up. It's like it never existed.
You know what?
It's weird.
You know what controller I'm surprised didn't get brought up in this?
What's that?
The Duke.
The Duke is perfect.
I love the Duke.
It's the big boy.
Massive. I posted a photo of it in the little chat later, but of the Vive controllers themselves, and you have that lovely little trackpad that they made for the Steam controller, and it also has the trigger feedback from the Steam controller as well. So to me, it was like a sacrificial lamb, like I said, to learn to make something better.
It makes me feel old because I'm looking at it, and my first thought is, what do I do with it?
Yeah. You know another controller that we didn't talk about? The PlayStation Move. Anyone remember the Move?
Oh yeah.
And because there's nothing to talk about. It's a giant dildo.
Yeah.
No one brought up Guitar Hero. Nobody brought up DJ Hero.
Oh,
I
shit.
did see the DJ turntable appear. The power glove.
What about the iToy? Does anyone else remember the iToy?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Or the DDR dance pad.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're getting more into the peripherals. I mean, that could be an entirely different show topic on it in and of itself.
That's also true. Technically, it's a controller.
It is technically a controller.
That is
true. And nobody's showing any love for Google Stadia.
It's actually supposed to be a good controller.
I've heard.
I was talking to Joey from my podcast about it, and he's like, the Google Stadia actually has a really nice controller, and I'm like, what? I thought it was just a knockoff Xbox controller.
Yeah, when they announced that Google was gonna sell them, or maybe it's not selling them, maybe it was like give functionality to it for other things, like people were excited.
You know what's funny about going back to the Duke real quick? That controller was like universally despised when it first came out, and like it's gained a cult following to the point where they actually re-released it.
Yep.
I don't think I think you're right. It's a cult following. I don't think anyone actually likes it. I think they like it ironically.
Yeah.
All I remember about the original Duke is that the face buttons would hurt my thumb after using it for too long.
Yeah, everything about the Duke controller is weird. Like it had like the weird like slanted buttons. Like the D-pad is the weirdest thing in the world to me. Like it's just kind of a blob that like is there. One of the analog sticks is normal, and then the other is like convex for some reason. Like there's just so much weird stuff going on there.
I'm sure Slade thinks the D-pad is fine.
Yeah, it's tremendous. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I just love the fact that like Japan, they made a special like smaller one for like the Japanese people, and then like Americans were just importing them, so they just made that the default controller after a while.
I'm
What is
looking at
that?
that controller and I'm thinking about like the last scene of Requiem for a Dream that Alex just posted.
Oh no!
All I
Oh,
could think of was a
no.
neck pillow that you take.
Is it bad that I knew exactly what you were referencing?
Oh man.
I gotta ask because it wasn't brought up, but I haven't used it. Is the Neo Geo CD controller? I asked this. First of all, I don't know if anyone here is a fan of fighting games because when I was younger, I was, and I have the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and that has that micro switch pad, which is fantastic. But that's
Mhm.
also supposed to be on the Neo Geo CD controller, and that makes fighting games a dream. So I just have to ask if anyone's ever used that.
I have, and it's great.
I have not. The only fighting game I like is Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and that's about you lose me after that.
Fair.
So, just to talk about collecting real quick, like I'm like officially kind of like retiring from like collecting consoles for like the time being, just because I don't have space for them. But if there's one console I would break that for to get, I want a Neo Geo CD so badly. Like,
You don't
next-
need it
True.
because
But he
you can
wants
almost. I get it. No, I completely understand that. Oh, I have that slime controller. I have it. It sucks. It's so terrible.
It kind of looks like it does.
So yeah, funny story. You're supposed to keep that thing in the box. I didn't know when I got it. I actually wanted to use it. So Alex posted a picture of the Dragon Quest PS2 slime controller, and I think they came out with one for the PS3 later. I think there's a wireless one too. But I bought it when Dragon Quest 8 came out. Same time, it came in a nice little box that says "I'm cute" and a controller too. And I was like, "Well, fuck you, box," and then opened up and threw it away because I wasn't a collector back then, like in the slightest sense. I just wanted a cute slime controller, and I tried playing the game with that controller and learned really quick that it was not meant to be used.
Yeah. It's like the chainsaw controller for Resident Evil 4. It's like it's cute, but like, why would you ever use it?
No, it's just meant to be sold.
Yeah, I just wish. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible controller, and I feel bad for opening it. I don't feel bad for having it. I feel bad for opening it.
I love the slime. It's great.
Also, like I had to like clean it at one point because like the controller has this weird rubber material over it, and it became sticky. And no, I didn't do anything weird to it. It just happened naturally. Okay, I swear.
Yeah, that rubber breaks down after a
Whoa.
while, and like you just.
Did Bill just go robot for anyone else? Or
Yeah.
was it just
We
me?
don't worry. We trust
Yeah.
in Zencaster.
God damn it.
Welcome back, Bill.
You're back.
Okay. All right. Well, at that note, we are getting close to our 2-hour time limit, so I'd actually like to start wrapping this up. So that was a fun debate. We got kind of off the rails at times. Probably my fault, also Alex's.
Mostly mine. I'll take the blame.
It's all right. That's why people like you. But anyways, so I just wanted to, before we close this out, I wanted to give our 3 guests some time to just plug their shows and just kind of like tell everyone where they can find all their stuff. So I guess we'll start with Chris.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Bill. Once again, extremely happy to be on your show. Look forward to working with you more in the future. And for all of you looking for where I might be at, you can find me over at the Retro Hangover Podcast, where me and my partner Shane, we talk about a game or a topic or a console of some sort once every other week. And we give a brief history. We go over our personal experiences. We talk about the story, the gameplay, the graphics, and then we discuss whether it holds up today. We also have other shows like The Flight, which are a shorter version of our show, I guess, where we just give a top 5 list of whatever topics that our patrons choose. And also we have other series that we have that are with our show, like The King of Games, where we take a year and then we compete games against each other in a tournament format to see what the best game of that year is, and it's truly chaotic. So we hope you come and check us out, and you can find us over at linktree/retro hangover. That's linktr.ee/retro hangover, and would love if you stop by and check us out. Just Be wary. If you're checking out some of our main episodes, you might want to turn down the volume within the first 30 seconds. Just a warning. After that 30 seconds, you're fine, though.
Nice. Yeah, I love Retro Hangover. That's like one of my my go-to weeklies. I was actually on that show back in the day, for anyone listening, on the Alone in the Dark episode. That was a great chat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So, Slade, now where can people find you?
That's sure, man. You can find me over at the Game Club Podcast, where once every 2 weeks we discuss a video game, not too dissimilar to a book club. You can find us at all good podcast providers and some sketchy ones as well. You can also catch Bill and Alex on a episode we had called Between Two Pods, where I bring another podcast on and ask them questions and also send them on a scavenger hunt through their house, which was quite fun to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good time. That's where the carnival music thing comes from. If anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
All right. And Rick, where can everybody find you?
Sure. And by the way, thank you, Bill and Alex for inviting all of us on here. It's my second time on the show, and I'm now 1 for 2 in terms of times I didn't get choked up and almost cry on the show, and that just makes me so happy. Oh fuck! God damn it. Okay. So anyway, 0 for 2, I guess. But you can find our show, Pixel Project Radio, anywhere you listen, Twitter and Instagram or our socials. It's a lot of fun. We do have an upcoming episode where Bill is going to be joining us, although Alex isn't, unfortunately. But you know, the door is always open. You're always welcome, as are all of you too. But yes, that is the show, Pixel Project Radio, and check us out. It's a good time.
Awesome. No, I just wanted to thank all three of you guys for coming on. Thank you, Chris, for finally joining us. We'll definitely have you on again at some other point. And Slade and Rick, the door's always open. Yeah, I got lost in what I was trying to say. But anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. We are made on Spotify for podcasters, and you can find all of our links at linktree/thebarpoogames. And until next time, guys, we will see you all next time.
Goodbye.
Bye. No clown music today.